Pay the $48,000 for your sister's condo by noon tomorrow, or I report you to the ethics board for authorizing it and then lying. I will burn your license. That was the text my father sent me. No hello, no greeting, just a photo of a loan document with a clumsy forgery of my signature followed by that threat. He wasn't asking for help. He was blackmailing me. He was framing me for a crime I didn't commit to cover my sister Morgan's fraud. And he was ready to destroy my entire career to keep her safe. I set my tea mug down on the coaster. My hand was steady. The ceramic didn't even click against the cork. Most people would be hyperventilating right now. They would be dialing their father, screaming into the receiver, begging for an explanation. But I deal with financial crimes for a living. I am 32 years old, and as a senior compliance officer for one of the largest banks in Chicago, I know that panic is just an admission of guilt. You don't fight a fire by screaming at the flames. You starve it of oxygen. I opened my work laptop. It was a secure terminal, heavily encrypted, the kind of machine that logs every keystroke. I didn't need to hack anything. I had legal access to the internal audit trails for any loan connected to my Social Security number. One click brought up the access logs for the home equity line of credit application. There was a digital footprint glowing in blue text on the black screen. The application hadn't been filed by a stranger in Russia or a bot in a server farm. It had been accessed from a device named Morgan's iPhone 14. The security questions, mother's maiden name, name of first pet, the street I grew up on, had been answered correctly on the first try. My sister Morgan, 29 years old and still treating my identity like a communal trust fund. She hadn't just borrowed money. She had impersonated me, bypassed federal banking security protocols, and committed a felony that carries a 30-year maximum sentence. And my father, Gregory, knew it. That's why he wasn't asking for a loan. He was threatening my license because he knew that was the only leverage strong enough to make me eat a $48,000 loss to keep his golden child out of handcuffs. I took a screenshot. I saved the metadata. I exported the chat log from my phone where he threatened me. I moved everything onto an external hard drive and locked it in my safe. Then I opened a new tab. For 3 months, a notification had been sitting in the corner of my HR portal, ignored. Transfer offer. Singapore branch senior risk analyst. It was a promotion, a 20% raise, a relocation package that covered everything. I had let it sit there because of guilt. I had told myself I couldn't leave Chicago, couldn't leave my aging parents, couldn't leave Morgan to figure out adulthood on her own. I had let my potential rot in an inbox because I thought my family needed me. They didn't need me. They needed a scapegoat. I looked at the apartment I had carefully decorated the life I had built here. It felt like a set on a stage where the play had already ended. I clicked the notification. The offer was still active. I scrolled to the bottom past the liability waivers and the housing stipends. There was a box for start date. I selected immediate expedited. I clicked accept. The screen flashed green. Transfer confirmed. Human resources will contact you shortly. I wasn't running away. Running away is impulsive. Running away is messy. This was a strategic withdrawal to a jurisdiction where their drama couldn't reach me. I opened a travel site and booked a one-way ticket to Changi Airport for tomorrow night. The confirmation email hit my inbox at the exact same moment my phone buzzed again. Another text from my father. Read the text, Alyssa. Do the right thing. I looked at the suitcase in the corner of my room. I wasn't going to pack clothes. I was going to pack my life. The sound of packing tape ripping off the dispenser was the only noise in the apartment. It was a harsh tearing sound like a zipper over a fresh wound. I folded a cashmere sweater, a gift I had bought for myself after my last promotion, and placed it into the suitcase. My movements were mechanical. Fold smooth, but my mind was rewinding, playing back a highlight reel of every time I had opened my wallet to buy peace for this family. 3 years ago, 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang and Gregory was breathless on the other end. Morgan had driven her Honda Civic through a neighbor's fence. She was drunk, she was hysterical, and she was uninsured. She made a mistake, Alyssa. He had pleaded. If the police get involved, her life is over. She needs $5,000 for the neighbor not to press charges and to fix the car. I'm liquidating some assets, but I can't get the cash until Monday. I wired the money. I never saw it again. 18 months ago, Gregory's sure-thing investment in a friend's tech startup imploded. He was facing a margin call that would have taken the house. He didn't ask me for a loan. He just sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands, talking about how shameful it would be to lose the family home, how the stress might kill my mother. I wrote a check for $12,000. I told myself I was being a good daughter. I told myself I was saving them. I wasn't saving them. I was paying a subscription fee. I taped the box shut and stacked it by the door. The realization hit me with the weight of a physical blow. I wasn't a member of this family. I was an asset. I was the emergency fund they tapped when the golden child set something on fire. I was the insurance policy with a pulse. And that's why Gregory was threatening me. Now, in the banking world, we call it the sunk cost fallacy. It's the irrational refusal to abandon a failing project because you've already invested too much time, money, and ego into it. You keep throwing good money after bad because stopping means admitting you were wrong. Morgan was Gregory's failing project. He had spent 29 years building a shrine to her potential. He had bragged about her creativity when she failed math, her spirit when she got fired, her taste when she lived beyond her means. He had invested his entire identity in the narrative that they were the perfect family and she was the prize. If he admitted she was a criminal, a fraudster who stole from her own sister, his entire investment would go to zero. His ego would bankrupt itself. He wasn't protecting Morgan because he loved her more. He was protecting his own vanity. He would rather destroy me, the boring, reliable, profitable asset, than admit his star investment was a liability. I looked at the stack of boxes. My life in Chicago packed away in cardboard. He thought threatening my career would make me fold. He thought I would panic, cut the check, and apologize for making him ask. He thought I was still the daughter who paid $12,000 to keep him from feeling shame. He forgot one thing. Assets don't have feelings. Assets don't have loyalty. And when an asset becomes toxic, you liquidate it. I picked up my phone. It was time to give him exactly what he wanted. My thumb hovered over the screen. To catch a wolf, you don't run. If you run, you trigger their chase instinct. You don't fight either. If you fight, they go for the throat. You limp. You drag your leg. You whimper. You make yourself look so broken, so defeated that they drop their guard. You make them think they've already won, so they walk right up to you to take the final bite. That is the only moment when they are vulnerable enough to kill. I opened a travel app and booked a ticket not to Singapore, to London. A refundable economy class ticket for a flight leaving O'Hare in 4 hours. It was a decoy, a breadcrumb trail for a man who thought he was hunting a rabbit, not walking into a bear trap. I took a screenshot of the confirmation. Then I opened the text thread with Gregory. I typed slowly, letting the words taste like ash in my mouth. You win, Dad. I stared at the words. It was exactly what he wanted to hear. It was the submission he had been demanding since I was 5 years old. I can't lose my license, I typed. I'm scared of the investigation, so I'm leaving the country tonight. I'm going to London until this blows over. I attached the fake flight confirmation. Now came the hook. The piece of meat laced with arsenic. I tried to wire the $48,000, but the bank flagged the transfer because of the amount. I can't override it remotely. But I logged in and added Morgan as an authorized signer on the account. This was the lie. The beautiful lethal lie. In banking, adding an authorized signer usually requires the person to be physically present to sign a signature card. But Gregory didn't know that. Morgan certainly didn't know that. They only knew what they wanted to believe. That I was folding. That the money was theirs. She just needs to go to the main branch on LaSalle Street tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. She has to show her ID to prove she is Morgan, and she has to sign the withdrawal slip herself. I've cleared it with the manager. Just tell them she is on the account. I hit send. The phone sat on the table between us like a loaded gun. I waited. The bubbles appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. He was reading it. He was probably showing it to Morgan right now. I could picture them in the living room of the house I had paid to save. Morgan crying crocodile tears about how stressful this was. Gregory puffing out his chest telling her that he handled it, that he put me in my place. He wasn't thinking about why I would add her to the account instead of just writing a check. He wasn't thinking about why she had to sign for it personally. He was blinded by the victory. He saw the money and he saw me running away in fear. His ego was writing checks that his freedom couldn't cash. The phone buzzed. Good girl. The text read. Don't come back. I read it twice. Good girl. The same thing you say to a dog that obeys a command. The same thing he used to say when I brought home straight A's or cleaned up Morgan's messes without complaining. It was the ultimate dismissal. He didn't care that I was fleeing the country. He didn't care that I was terrified. He got his money and he got rid of the problem. I felt a cold, sharp smile cut across my face. He thought I was limping. He thought I was bleeding out. He didn't know I was just waiting for him to get close enough to the edge. Morgan wasn't going to the bank to pick up money. By demanding she show her ID and sign a withdrawal slip for funds she had no right to. I wasn't just giving her access. I was creating a paper trail. I was forcing her to commit identity theft and bank fraud in person on camera with a federal witness watching. I wasn't sending her a lifeline. I was sending her a subpoena. I picked up the last box. My apartment was empty. The walls were bare. The life I had built here. The late nights studying for my certification, the lonely dinners, the constant anxiety of waiting for the next family crisis was gone. I walked out the door and left the key on the counter. I didn't look back. The first-class lounge at O'Hare hummed with the low, polite murmur of people who had places to be and the money to get there comfortably. It smelled of espresso and expensive leather. I sat in a high-backed wing chair by the window, watching the ground crew load luggage into the belly of a Boeing 777. My phone sat on the marble table next to a glass of sparkling water. The screen read 8:55 in Chicago on LaSalle Street. The heavy glass doors of the main branch were being unlocked. I could picture the lobby perfectly. The polished marble floors, the smell of sanitizer and old money, the tellers arranging their cash drawers. I knew the branch manager, Sarah. She was diligent by the book and had zero tolerance for nonsense. I also knew who was walking toward those doors right now. Morgan would be wearing her serious outfit, probably a blazer she bought with my credit card, trying to look like someone who belonged in a bank at opening time. Gregory would be waiting in the car, engine idling, texting me for updates, terrified of a parking ticket, but arrogant enough to think he had just bullied a bank into submission. They thought they were walking into a payday. They were walking into a crime scene. I unlocked my laptop. The blue light of the screen reflected in my glass of water. For 12 hours, I had let them believe the lie. I had let them sleep soundly, dreaming of the condo, the furniture, the victory over the stubborn, selfish sister. I needed them to believe it. I needed them to walk into that branch voluntarily, present their identification, and explicitly demand access to my funds. If I had just reported the fraud yesterday, it would have been my word against theirs. A messy family dispute, a civil matter. But by luring them into the branch to sign a withdrawal slip, I was handing the prosecution a smoking gun. Attempting to access an account using a stolen identity isn't a misunderstanding. It is bank fraud. It is aggravated identity theft. And because the amount exceeded $10,000, it triggered federal mandatory reporting guidelines. I logged into my banking portal. The interface was familiar, comforting even. I navigated to the security tab. I found the option I had been saving for this exact moment. Account status active. I clicked at it. I didn't authorize a signer. I didn't approve a cashier's check. I triggered code red. Victim identity theft. A system override that froze the terminal and silently alerted security and police. In the teller alert box, I typed critical alert. Do not process transaction. Subject will attempt access using forged authorization and stolen identification. Active fraud. Stall. Call 911. Case reference 4492B. It was clinical, not the voice of a sister, of a compliance officer. I hesitated only a moment thinking of the lifetime I'd spent fixing their messes. Then I hit save. Status frozen. Law enforcement alert active. 9 a.m. The bank opened. Morgan arrived minutes later in an expensive blazer, confident, sunglasses still on. She went straight to the counter, slid over her license, and claimed I had added her as an authorized signer. The teller typed, and the trap closed. A red banner exploded on screen. Code red: identity theft. Contact authorities. Calmly stalling, the teller pretended the system was slow. Security blocked the door. Silent alarms pulsed. Morgan grew impatient. When she tried to leave, police lights washed the windows. Officers entered. Handcuffs clicked. Morgan panicked and shattered everything. She screamed that her father forced her, that he was waiting outside, that he'd threatened my career. The texts were still open on her phone. Get the money or I ruin her. Don't leave without that check. That turned fraud into extortion and gave police cause to arrest Gregory, too. While they were let out, I was already airborne 30,000 foot over the Pacific. My lawyer's message came through. Morgan charged with bank fraud and aggravated identity theft. Gregory charged with extortion and conspiracy. Protective orders granted. I deleted the family chat, blocked every number, removed my father's contact. When the flight attendant offered champagne, I accepted. I'm celebrating a promotion, I said. I just made myself CEO of my own life. I dropped my old SIM card into the glass. Sometimes the only way to win is to stop playing by their rules. Sometimes you have to fire your own family to save yourself.